Hello, everybody. Thanks for watching this. If um, if you've jumped in late and started over, I didn't announce this, so I don't expect anybody to be watching live. So, um, in this video, I am gonna walk through a smaller portion of my effects rig. Um, Last time I did a full walkthrough of just the whole board, and I just kind of overviewed several of the things I use. Um, but this time I'm going to go into a deeper dive, but into a smaller section of my board. In this case, just basically all of it that's not the boss vocal processor at the end. Okay, but I am going to leave that processor. I'm going to turn that processor on because I want you to hear how it sounds in context, like how I actually end up using it. I'll isolate some of the sounds, go through some of the options so you can see what difference they make, and why I chose what I chose, and then hopefully you can pick some gear that works really well for you based off of that. I'm not supported by any of these brands or companies, by the way, so yeah, that's it. So I want to get straight into it. What I've done, as I mentioned in the walkthrough, is I have recorded some of my own playing with my own mic setup. It's a wireless instrument mic um, into my receiver, and then my receiver goes straight into this Donner harmonic square, which I use as an octave pedal, even though it does have some other harmony options on here. So I go straight into this, and then into my Q-Tron Plus, which has an effects loop, and in that effects loop is this VHT boost comp right here, and that's just all within the Q-Tron. So with the Q-Tron off, nothing's going through that. That's only inside the Q-Tron. And then going into this Canyon delay and reverb pedal, I probably will just save that. I'll probably just do the Canyon separately. But I chose this view so you could see the Q-Tron and the boost comp that's inside of it. And I can kind of mess around with both, since neither of them have just like a plethora of features. So let's get into it. I'll play a little audio sample here. Let's see. Let's pick one. I did a little scale excerpt, I think. Okay, that's a solid example. Goes through all the different ranges of the horn, but it leaves enough time in between to kind of reset. So I want to clarify that I am using the boss effect on the end, the reverb. Let me turn that off so you can hear what it sounds like. Absolutely dry. Okay, so when there are, just in case you don't know what that means, when there are no effects being applied, it's just like I had the microphone going straight into a speaker or something. That's what I mean when I say completely dry. There's no effects on there, it's just the signal. So here's what it sounds like with nothing added. No sauce. Okay, yeah, it's pretty piercing in a few spots, and so that's why I use the the boss pedal to kind of rein in some of the frequencies. And yes, I do that at the end, not so much at the beginning. And it doesn't really affect a whole lot, especially with the Q-Tron having the boost comp in it. I can control it with that. I don't need so much stuff. But you can hear I can hear there's a bunch of key noise in there. I can hear the click, 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 click of the keys. And I use the boss pedal to kind of work that out of just whatever, whatever pedals it's going through. The boss pedal is just going to kind of clean that up at the end. So let's do it with just the enhancement on. That does make it sound a little thinner, but it doesn't really matter for the mix. And then I use a reverb on the boss pedal at the end. And here's what that sounds like. That may sound a little thick, but all that reverb, all those little tails is what a lot of people call them. They just get lost in a mix, And if you were in a live space, a big live space like a cathedral or something, you would also hear all that reverb, but your ear kind of like compensates for that. Your brain says, oh, I'm in a big room. Of course there are a bunch of tails. And your brain sort of like turns that perception off. Here it's weird because you're listening to it really close through a video. So, yeah, it sounds like a lot here, but when I play with a band, that stuff goes away. You just don't hear it as much, okay? Enough of that. Let's get into this section of the board, okay? So I kind of demonstrated the octave pedal last time. Let's go ahead and turn that on with the settings I just use on the regular. Okay, so nice big sound out of that octave pedal, or out of this harmony pedal, really. Let's go through some of the other options while we're here. I know there's kind of a lot of glare on there and it's hard to see. Let me see if I can do this. Slide over there very carefully. Maybe zoom in. Yeah. Technology. Okay. Yeah, I know that. Oh, and then I undid all of it. Beautiful. Let's try again. Pan and then tilt down. And now click OK instead of just X. Awesome. Still not the clearest thing. Okay. That's a little bit better. So what you need to know here is that this is a knob, and so is this. It's just a potentiometer or pot, or just like level knob. And there are separate ones on either side here for the wet signal and the dry signal. So let me play this and I'll show you. So the wet signal is the octave down. So there it is. If I turn that all the way down, octave goes away. Turn it back up, octave comes back. Turn the dry all the way down. I feel like this pedal does a good job of emulating what it would sound like if I were actually playing the saxophone an octave down. That's why I like it. It does take a little bit of the brightness off. So what I can do if I want a true octave down sound and not worry about the my sound getting buried, because usually if you play a lot of low end stuff like that, that stuff gets really lost in a mix or a performance unless it's really quiet, mainly because the bass player is going to be supplying a lot of sound in that range, so it kind of like butts heads. So I just add the dry mix back in. So if I wanted to have like I'm just actually playing an octave down and keep the brightness, I just dial in a tiny bit of dry and then it works out. So check it out. So there, you see I can dial in a good octave down sound by actually using the dry signal to sort of push the brightness in there. Okay, so let me dial it back into what I had. Oh, and I'll show you the other intervals as well. So this is just in this switch right here, switches between up in the center. It kind of does a detune or like a kind of chorusy sound. And then down, it's that interval down, okay? And then all the intervals on this big knob are plus or minus. So if I go up, for instance, and then go to let's see what we have. Yeah, the glare is so bad I can't even read it. Use the old phone flashlight here. Try to make up for it. Aha. So we have a second there. And then yeah, this is kind of the downside of these pedals, is if you don't know where everything is on them, they can be a little difficult to read. So we've got a second, a third, fourth, fifth, seventh octave, and then double octave. So I'll just move through them. Here's the second interval, and it's going up. So it's definitely a sound. So you can kind of tell how that goes. The third up, that's difficult because thirds can be minor or major. So this is just going to kind of pick one and you're stuck with that. So, meh. But the octave up does do a good job of approximating. Like, it's easier to go an octave up because of the way that it works. I don't know enough to try to explain it from any place of authority. So here's a fourth that has its own sound. I'm actually going to make this loop a little smaller. We'll go with the fifth, the power chord sound. And I can definitely hear why it's called that. And then a seventh. This one is a little more interesting to me. It's like a weird, I don't know, it's not an interval you usually think about, and then it's just there. So then here's with an octave up. That definitely adds some brightness to the sound. Now let's hear what it sounds like with no dry signal. Yeah, it's not the most beautiful, but it's a really good octave sound. And another thing is it tracks, which is where sometimes in some pedals when they're processing audio. So for instance, this one is getting a signal and it goes for octave down or octave up, let's say. It gets an audio signal and it goes, okay, I've got to take half of that audio signal and chop it up and then recombine it together so that the waves are half as long so that it can sound an octave up. of course, it does it way faster. But even then, there can be some milliseconds of delay between the audio passing, the dry signal passing through, and the wet signal doing the processing and then going through as well. And this pedal tracks really well. It happens instantly. It processes really quickly. Usually what that means is there's a little bit of a trade-off for quality versus speed, just as in most things. So it tracks really well, but the tone, I feel like it's some of the best tone I can get for that speed of tracking. It's also not trying to analyze anything, so I tried this with the vocal processor, which has some octave capabilities. But some of the features in that, since it's really high quality, can lag a little bit. It maybe doesn't track as quickly or as accurately, and it's kind of too smart. Like, it tries to figure out which note I'm playing and then copy that note an octave down, and I don't need all of that. So this does that part beautifully. Let's check out this center thing. Now in the center mode, I don't think it matters which way I've got the knob pointing, but we'll find out. So I'm going to go back to my kind of default setting here. So right now I've got that in the, sorry, let me turn the pedal off. You can hear, let's go back to the original. Okay, so now the switch is in the middle, and I don't really know, you know, you're kind of discovering this at the same time I am. Let's just play it and play around with this middle switch position. So that's completely dry. Let's turn up this wet knob. Okay, I've turned the wet knob on. Oh, I didn't turn the pedal on. Duh. Pedal on. Cool, so it's still all dry signal. Roughly the same volume. Add in some wet. I'm starting to hear the second sound. And this just slightly detunes. It just slightly detunes the wet sound. Seems like this knob kind of controls how far away that... Okay, yeah, so what I'm getting is that the big knob kind of decides how far away from the dry sound the wet sound is going to be. We can sort of figure that out now. This is fantastic. By just turning the dry sound all the way down, and we can hear the pitch change in the wet sound. So no change. Yeah, I can hear that that's slightly lower, and then higher. And then add back, so yeah. So I might use this sound. That sounds pretty cool to me. It just sounds doubled, but with just the tiniest bit of variation. Oh, sorry, you can see my Halloween socks down there. With the tiniest bit of variation that makes it sound kind of like a chorus. So, yeah, I think that's a good demo of this pedal. And then the octave down, or in the down position, I should say, this harmony all just plays down. I tried the 2 octave down. It gets pretty garbled. If I go for a higher range, maybe not. Let's see how well it does picking up, taking something higher 2 octaves down. Okay, that's good. That's good. So yeah, what it is, after a certain point, the waves are just too far apart and the frequency is too low. And actually, the enhancement at the end, the EQ at the end, taking out some of that noise, might be changing it, but it's really just too low. If I were playing like a flute or something, I could probably get away with 2 octaves down. But now we're back to the original here. Okay, cool. Octave pedal. Sorry, harmony pedal with octave. Sorry, my stand is a little shaky here. So let's do... Now I've got to move this... back to where it was. So let's go... And definitely tilt back up away from those socks. Everybody's not trying to stare at those. Okay. Just a little more panning. Boom, we've got it back. Okay. Now, the Q-Tron. This is really the pride and joy here. First of all, it's probably the most expensive just single effect pedal that I've ever bought. I knew ever since I saw Jeff Coffin with Beta Fleck and the Flecktones, as well as I really, if you can remember the bassoonist's name in this group, please comment that below so everybody can see. They played with this kind of this envelope filter, or kind of auto wah. So different companies call this different things. It is, I think, in technical terms, it is called an envelope filter. Just kind of no matter what, everybody should sort of know what that means. And then different companies that produce pedals call their pedals sort of different things. So some, I think there's a T-wah, it stands for touch wah, and that's supposed to be like, it responds to your like touch of picking on the guitar. Some call it an auto wah, but that can be confusing because an auto wah could also be just like time based, kind of like a delay or something, or like an auto pan or tremolo. And then there's the Q-Tron. There are just a bunch of other envelope effects, but that's what they are, is envelope filters. And what that means is they make a nice tight little envelope for the audio signal, and if it all fits in there in the envelope, it's a nice warm sound. It's just a nice packed envelope, sealed up nicely, everything fits in there, and you can send it along the way, and it's going to get where it's going safely. If that envelope starts to get full, you can sort of, if you were to pack an envelope full of something, you'd be able to start to like feel that the envelope is getting full, and you can start to like feel more of the contents, maybe more of the edges in the contents there. And then of course, if it's too full, if it's overflowing, then the envelope can't shut, and everything else that's flowing over spills out. So yeah, that's how this works. So let's play. Let me first of all pick another clip, because I don't want to just bore you with that one. Let's try a few of them here. Okay, that's a nice one. Alright, first thing I'm going to do, let's get rid of this octave pedal. For now, my friend. Don't worry, you'll be back. Alright, so the Q-Tron, let's go ahead and play what I've got sort of dialed in. It's going to be a little bit different because I'm usually playing into the receiver up there, and it's coming into the harmonic square and then the Q-Tron. So the level is a tiny bit different going in. I'll have to make a couple of adjustments really quickly, but it shouldn't be that bad. Uh-oh. Okay, so I'm having a significant level drop come out of this. And what that can mean is there's a problem with one of these connections. Sorry about the camera movement there. Let's fix that. All right, let's take a second to troubleshoot. So I've got a line going out from the harmonic square and into the Q-Tron input. And I've got an effects send. And what it sounds like to me, since there aren't any problems when the Q-Tron is off, it seems like that means something in the loop there's a bad connection in the loop. Alright, and I fixed it. So that's that happens in real life, and you just got to start kind of, the whole turn it off and back on again, except it can be like unplug it and plug it back in again. So that's what I was working with there. So that's the sound here. Now, when I'm playing, like I said before, it gets a little bit different level, but this is pretty accurate to where I have it set. I tried to get a setting where if I just leave both of these at noon, it just kind of works, and then I can always work outward from that. So here's how that sounds. Okay, so that's the sound that I use. Now I'm not going to go over the boost comp just yet, but what I will do is I'll turn it off really quickly, and you can hear what it sounds like without any of that control sort of applied. Or actually, sorry, it was off. So let's try it with the control applied now. Okay, so it's not a huge difference, but I have noticed with the like on stage with some other outside sounds and stuff, it really helps to sort of control what the Q-Tron is picking up to have that boost comp turned on. It helps sort of rein in some of the envelope stuff, especially if I'm going really hard and the Q-Tron starts to overload a lot. So for an example of that, I'll crank the gain up on the Q-Tron. So what that little overload light that's going off means is that basically the envelope is overflowing at that point. It can't contain what's going on. So that means the dry signal is just spilling out over the top of the envelope. And once if that's going off the whole time, you're really losing the effect of the envelope. So if I leave it like that and turn it off and on again, it starts to like make less and less of a difference. So the only reason it's making a difference there is because all the way to the left, you might see this knob that says mode. Sorry, I need to turn this microphone a bit. So all the way to the left, you see this knob that says mode, and that is on LP, which stands for low pass, which means it's letting all the low frequencies pass through, and it's sort of cutting off some of the higher frequencies. So that's why it's kind of, this is making the sound darker no matter what I do with this knob, because it kind of goes from right to left like that. So let's get this back to normal, back to default. Okay, cool. Now that being that low, that will start to get lost in the mix. So that's when I can use the boost comp to sort of bring some of that up. I can bring the level up here, you know, bring it up here in the compressor side. That's definitely a different video to talk about, like exactly what compressors do and everything. So let's just stick with this pedal for now and go through the all the options here. I'll go ahead and turn that pedal off. Let's lose that. And then it didn't sound bad earlier, so let's try it. Okay, sounds pretty nice. Now the next option on that mode switch, and it's not just like a knob that you turn freely, it has little notches. So switch it to low pass, or sorry, band pass, and that means the whole frequency range is open. This thing's going to take in everything from there's no EQ going on. So let's hear that. So that has a lot more brightness to it. And that was one thing I was sort of experimenting with the boost comp, is using that boost to take a bunch of treble out. And so I could use the brightness of the bandpass mode to cut through, but then still keep it nice and round with the boost comp. Let's try that. Okay, so yeah, it started to sort of overload there at the end, but that's because of something else. So that's how I might use that if I were to switch between other modes. I'm not going to keep doing that for every mode. So in the bandpass, I think that's a good starting place. If you're going to try a Q-Tron, just having that bandpass so it doesn't apply any EQ or anything. On saxophone, I feel like it sounds pretty good. On tenor, especially, I think it sounds fine. I like the low pass sound a little bit better. On alto, the low pass starts to, you start to play notes on the horn that are being cut off by the low pass filter, by that EQ. And so when you get high in the horn, when you play higher notes in the upper range of the horn, they start to just kind of either blow past it, the Q-Tron just doesn't know what to do with that. So they either get kind of canceled out, or or either way, you just really lose them. They get a lot quieter. It doesn't sound as good. So I have to switch to band pass when I play alto or maybe even soprano, which I haven't played very much with the effects. So let's go through some of the other options. Oh, sorry about that. While we're on this band pass, here's the response timing, and I've got it on fast, but you can switch it between fast and slow. Let me give you an A/B on that. Okay, so that doesn't make a huge difference for me, um, but I like to leave it on fast because when I'm playing some faster lines, I like it to catch each one of those articulations if it can. Now this little switch down here, that determines whether, so for the envelope sound, what's happening here is when things fit into the envelope, it's like a soft, squishy envelope that makes everything warm and soft. And then when the sound is brighter, it gets less that way. It adds some edge back in until the volume drops back down to fit inside the envelope. You switch it down, it does the opposite thing. So let's hear that. So yeah, so switching down, it's going to start with a darker tone, and then it's going to brighten up as the volume gets louder. Check this. So yeah, you can hear it has the backward, the opposite effect on the sound. And then we switch it back. So instead of it going wah, it's going ow. You know, just literally the opposite sound. That can be cool for some, I think some bass players use that if I'm not mistaken. And that can do some cool stuff. So, and it's just a preference. You know, you can switch it down and have that sound, and it's just not I don't feel like it's the quacky sound that people are kind of used to when they think of this. So the range, high and low, I'm not 100% sure on this, but I think this is where the envelope kind of starts, or maybe like where in the EQ range the envelope switches back and forth between open and close. But let's just try switching it and see what it sounds like, because talking about it isn't going to tell you that as well as playing the sounds. So that's in low. Here's high. So you can hear that's definitely a higher sound. It's a higher pitch. The envelope is happening way further up in the EQ range. So I like to leave that on low. I like the warm sound. Changing this peak here changes how much the envelope is gonna swallow up before it kind of spills out, and that's sort of like it's sort of EQ dependent as well. I'll just mess with it. So if I turn it all the way down, it gets pretty dark. And in this mode, sort of, it's gonna just keep everything in that envelope no matter what. It's not really, or you could think of it as it's I don't know. It just kind of defeats the purpose for me anyway. It's so dark you can't even hear the quacking. So at least up past this point, And it's really a balance between these two knobs. So if I go all the way down and then start turning this up, you can see the overload. Okay, and then we can start to add a little. And there's back at 50-50 like I had it. So the peak is, this knob is kind of like when the envelope opens up, you're going to get a certain frequency that's accentuated, and this peak knob kind of decides where that is. So when I had it way up here, it was bringing out frequencies that were just like too high that I'm not even playing. So it's catching all these harmonics off of the saxophone and everything. It really starts to sound like distortion there almost. So if I were doing this right now and I were about to play, and I was like, okay, here's my default thing. I'm gonna go to low pass, and I'm like, I want to test this out really quickly and see, make sure everything's going okay. Set up my tone that I want. I'm gonna turn those two on. Okay, and sort of the last thing I do is especially with the level knobs up there, I want to make sure that when I click this on, it's not going to be a huge volume change from when I'm already playing acoustically. Now the next two settings, let's go through them. So here's high pass, exactly the opposite of low pass. Instead of cutting off a bunch of high frequencies and letting all the low ones in, it's going to cut off all the low frequencies and let all the high ones in. I don't generally like this setting for saxophone. I don't even feel like I can really get a sound that kind of points out the envelope sound like I want. Now this last one is mix. What this does is it applies the bandpass mode and then the dry sound that's just passing through. It combines those two. So all these settings now are going to apply to the bandpass mode, and then they're not going to affect half the signal. So it's kind of a 50-50 split there. It splits the signal in two, affects half of it, and leaves the other half alone, like this. So it just layers the Q-Tron over the acoustic sound. And that's something I've used in the past to sort of add some ambiance like to my sound that I'm already getting. But I kind of like the other modes better because they really just alter the sound to be that envelope sound. So that's kind of all the settings here. I have that on, and then I'll play for a little bit. Now, there's one setting I haven't yet addressed, and it's this boost setting. What this does is it ties the gain knob to a volume setting. So with that turned on, it's a little unfortunate, I think, because then the gain knob controls what it was already controlling, which is like kind of how much the envelope can hold, or how much is going into the envelope, and it's sort of also tying it to this volume knob. So you have to find this delicate balance where both of them work together at the same time. It just so happens I've got this set up where 50% is my default. That's it. Sorry, I didn't mean to hit that. So it sort of works out for me in this situation. It won't change much. But if I were relying on it to sort of make up some gain or take some gain down, it would really affect the signal quite a bit, and it would sort of hamper the other options on the pedal. So let's mess with that. So you can see it really has dropped the gain a lot. And then I'll turn the input volume down a bit. And that's what it starts to turn into a boost pedal, like a guitar distortion when it's cranked. Okay, so that's what that switch does. I don't use it because I have the boost comp in the pedal loop, so I don't really need that to make any volume changes for me. I can use the boost comp to do that. Since the boost comp is inside the Q-Tron loop, I probably won't go too much into what it does because it's really heavily affected by the Q-Tron. But next time I'll do a little view of this Canyon pedal also from Electro-Harmonix, I think. Yeah, so also from Electro-Harmonix, and go through its features and the way I use it. But first, let's mess with this Q-Tron a little bit. I'm going to add that octave pedal back in since I talked about it before, and we'll kind of tailor the sound that way. So let's go back to original. Let's change to some other sound clip because that's definitely getting old. Okay, so let's turn on the harmony pedal, get an octave down going on. Now, what I want to make sure with the octave pedal, what I want to be really careful of with this is that the output volume from this pedal is roughly the same as when it's off. So I want to adjust these dry and wet knobs. Let's move over there. Okay. Nice. All right, so I want to adjust these dry and wet knobs to try to make the volume the same. So I'm going to switch the pedal on and off a bunch of times and make sure that's what's happening. Okay, I'm hearing roughly the same volume. And then what's also going to let me know is this overload knob here. When you turn the pedal on and that's lighting up more often, I know to back off on one of the level knobs. So that's a really nice indicator there that helps me know all of the input volumes before this pedal are staying the same. So let's do that. Okay, a little more overload. I'm actually going to try to turn the dry down a little bit. There we go. We're basically just getting one smack on those top couple of notes, and that's it. Yeah, it's roughly the same. Oop. I counted 4. A little more. There we go. All right, now we're definitely getting the same amount. So it still sounds cool there, and then what I could also do is adjust the mix of those two signals to mess with the Q-Tron even further. So let's check that out. So this is where maybe the switch. This could be cool. So let's hear that acoustic or without the Q-Tron. That sounds pretty much like the octave down I dialed in earlier with just a tiny bit. There we go. With a tiny bit of the original signal. Still overloading a little bit more. All right, let's try the switch. Gotta maybe turn the gain down. All right, that's pretty fun. I don't think I'll use that switch down. I think I'll keep it up. So you can see, like, kind of no matter what I put into the Q-Tron, as long as I keep the level roughly the same, it's gonna take that input. I just have to make sure that that's happening. I sort of can't adjust this. I sort of cannot adjust this on the fly too much because it'll affect what happens when I stomp on the Q-Tron, and I don't want to. I want to be able to combine them. You know, I don't want to have it kind of off limits. You can only use one or the other. No, I want all the options. And then still a good sound when I turn this off. And then also a good sound when I turn all of them off. Okay, so that's how I use at least these two pedals separately, but also together. And so you can see, for me, it's all kind of context-based. What do I need to do? The sound that I've got dialed in on this works really well for what I'm doing right now, for most of the stuff I'm playing. There have been some cases if I play in a like pop band that has a bari sax line, I want to play on alto because bari sax is exactly one octave down from alto sax. I can use this to be kind of my bari simulator. So, for example, if we're playing uh, an R&B tune that's got that classic bari bodum, that half step like leading tone into the bodum into the root. Um, I can use this to simulate the bari sound, and then often those tunes go like the bari goes bodum, and then the rest of the horns go bop bop bit up in the one I'm thinking of. So I can use this to go bari bodum bop bop beat up bodum bop bop beat up, just like that. Okay, except way better sounding than just my voice. So I can use this pedal to switch back and forth between bari and alto without having to do it. Obviously, if I have to play them both at the same time, that's not going to work out, or I'll have to dial this pedal in like I have it now so that it sounds like both of them playing at the same time. But I do have to pick and choose. If I wanted a dedicated bari sax player, bari sax pedal, so that I don't have to adjust this every time, I mean, I could just grab another one and put it in line. But I don't really need to do that. I haven't had the need yet, so that's not something I'm gonna try to work on. All right, I hope this was a deep enough dive into the Q-Tron and the harmonic square for you, and like how I use them. I think the main thing for me is I want to be able to I sort of imagine a sound first, or hear somebody else make a sound and go, I want that sound, and I try as hard as I can to get as close as I can to that, and then I sort of decide, well, I might want more of this or I might want more of that. But the main thing is when I go out and play with a group, it has to work there. And I've learned a lot of lessons about what sounds really cool when I'm playing in a room with some headphones on, or even some big speakers that play it back at me. One issue is that you're playing, if it's saxophone, you're playing an acoustic instrument, so you're gonna hear some of the natural saxophone no matter what. So you have to account for that. And then really what I've learned over the years of doing this is, if you add a little bit of an effect and you're like, that's really neat, that sounds really great, go ahead and add some more of it, because that's gonna, like, subtlety is gonna get lost really, really quickly in a group. So don't be afraid to go past subtle, to go beyond that, and really crank it up. And just like this reverb, it sounds really kind of intrusive at first. But now that I've been listening to it, it really doesn't sound that bad at all. And especially when I'm continuing to play, there at the end there, and you hear it just like wow, like tailing off, then it sounds like, oh, that's a little much. But when I'm continuing to play or playing with other people, it really doesn't sound like that much at all. Until I add these other delay pedals and stuff, and then it starts to be a really heavy reverb sound and delay sound. So I'm just about to hit the 1 hour mark, I just noticed, so that's perfect. That's about how long I wanted this to be. So thank you all for joining in. Please leave some comments if you have questions or something. I'm definitely open to setting up this stream and just taking some questions and trying to answer them the best I can. Also, if you want to educate me on something, like, please do that too. Just please do it tactfully. Like, I don't know all the things about these pedals. I'm definitely willing to learn. So if you have a new way that you've used them, or if I've described a function a little bit incorrectly or something, like, please let me know. I'll fix it. and I'm happy to let everybody know that I was wrong. I'm fine with that, because I want to learn new stuff too, and learning new stuff sometimes means unlearning old stuff. So thank you very much for watching, and I'll see y'all will see me on the next one, but not my face, just my stuff. All right, take care.